If you've ever won a deal, but then spent the next few months figuring out how you're actually going to deliver it, you're not alone. I've seen that happen in both large and small programs. Different scale, same problem. I spent years reviewing proposals as a CTO. Some were massive multi-year efforts with huge budgets and layered governance structures. Others were small, fast-moving engagements with 10-person teams, aggressive timelines, and almost no margin for error. The documents usually looked polished. The language sounded confident. But the question I kept coming back to was always the same. Is the proposed solution real? Not is it compelling? Not does it sound impressive? But is this something a team can actually deliver? Because that's where most proposals fail. It's not while you're trying to win the work. It's after you've already won it. Every proposal review follows the same pattern: polished language, impressive diagrams, and at least one statement that makes you stop and wonder whether the people writing it fully understand what it commits the company to. Over time, I realized the things that determine whether a proposal is strong or weak are actually pretty simple. Do we understand the client's problem? Does the solution make sense? Do we have the people to deliver it? And can you explain all of that more clearly than the next company competing for the work? Those are the things that matter. Everything else is noise. But this is where the process usually starts drifting. Countless times, I've heard people say, "Let's win the deal first and figure out execution later." That mindset sounds harmless in the moment, but it creates a very specific kind of problem. Language starts doing more work than the solution itself. I get very particular about the wording that go into a proposal. For example, there are differences between a product, a service, a framework, and an approach. Those terms aren't interchangeable, but in proposals they often get blended together because ambiguity sounds more impressive than specificity. And that's how you end up with statements like, "We will deliver a fully integrated solution." That sounds good, but it doesn't actually explain anything. What exactly will be integrated? How will they be integrated? Does everything even need to be integrated? That's not a plan. It's a wish. I once reviewed a proposal that promised heavily automated operations with a very small delivery team. On paper, it sounded efficient and innovative. But once we dig into the actual workflow, half of the processes still required manual approvals due to certain integration limitations. On paper, you can make anything sound scalable. In reality, you can't scale humans, not for free at least. That's the gap between what sounds compelling during the sales process and what a team eventually has to operationalize. And once the proposal is signed, the language stops being flexible. It becomes contractual. That matters more than people realize, because the people who inherit these commitments are usually not the people who wrote the proposal. They're the delivery leads, the engineers, the project managers, the operations teams trying to make unclear promises work under real conditions. And most organizations don't discover these problems early enough to meaningfully fix them. The proposal review is supposed to catch the gaps, but the voices of reason often get drowned out by economic realities. The document has usually already been structured and pushed towards submission. Not that everyone is oblivious to this problem, they are just trained to accept that's what it takes to win new business. You have to make broad claims. You have to make your solution sound better. You have to be cheaper. So while the stated problems are true, the person leading the proposal will nod, acknowledge your feedback, and explain why they can't change the proposal. That's why this isn't really a people problem. It's a problem driven by finance. Sales pressure rewards winning, not execution. And somewhere in the middle, technical clarity starts losing ground to persuasive language. You see it everywhere. I will handle everything. Guaranteed uptime. Seamless integration. Rapid transformation. The language gets stronger because the competition is doing the same thing. We live in a time where AI is disrupting everything. In order to predict what the future cost savings might be, companies almost have to hedge your bets on a multi-year proposal. That is risky. But if you don't do it, someone else will. It's not a good cycle to get caught in, because eventually somebody has to deliver what those words actually imply. And in smaller teams, the consequences show up fast. Scope creep, pricing pressure, missed timelines, difficult client conversations, a burned-out team that can't seem to close the gap. One of the most underweighted factors in all of this is execution ownership. Who is actually responsible when the project becomes difficult? Because I've seen technically strong proposals fail because the operational structure behind it wasn't tied to reality. Over time, I started viewing my role in proposal reviews differently. Part of the job was improving the document, but the more important part was protecting the team that would eventually have to live with it. My most common comments are, "This is not specific enough. We can't substantiate this. What does this actually mean operationally?" Not because I wanted the proposal to sound less impressive, because I've seen what happens when expectations are built on language instead of execution. The client relationship deteriorates. The delivery team burns out, and eventually everyone realizes the proposal and reality don't match. That's the part people don't talk about enough. Proposals don't just win work. They establish expectations that teams may spend months or years being measured against. They also dictate the relationship you get to build with the client. So this raises an important question. If this problem is real, what do we actually do about it? What changes when you stop focusing only on what the customer is asking for and start understanding the actual business problem they're trying to solve? Because once you understand the real driver behind the request, the proposal changes. The solution changes. And usually, the delivery outcome changes too. What changes when the proposed solution itself is more clearly defined? When the delivery model is repeatable and not made up for a proposal? When the team understands exactly what it can and cannot deliver consistently? That's what I'm going to talk about in part 2. If you enjoyed the video and would like to hear more stories and lessons from the executive world, let me know in the comments. There's a lot more to explore. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with you.